Okay, I think we'll crack on. We've got a pretty full program. Um, James Cobbold uh, is speaking on behalf of Raise. And if you don't know what that is, he is about to explain. So this is James, Community Forest. This is one of a whole set across the whole nation, isn't it? But we're talking about, is it the West Cumbria specifically?
No, I'll take you through it, but we're
Yeah,
part of a major national government funded program. So I'll just start off the share and see if we can get that working correctly. Let's see. So hopefully you are seeing a Raise logo. Yeah,
I
great.
certainly am. Yep, thank you.
I'm just going to move you slightly. There we are. So yeah, Raise and Cumbria Community Forest. I'm the director of Raise and Cumbria Community Forests, and I know some of you obviously from my past life in producing theatre and chief exec at Theatre by the Lake. Um, it's worth just setting out the context. So Raise is a neurodivergent-led organisation. So I'm autistic, I have ADHD, and that forms part of our approach to Cumbria Community Forest. And I'll apologise now if I cut across anybody. It's a occupational hazard. Um, I moved to working into the environment sector from the arts sector, partly to sort of drive a healthier, more balanced life for someone that's neurodivergent. But it was also because of that kind of rich cultural opportunity in the environment sector. And it's, again, part of what's informed how we work with Raise. Those creative practitioners that we work with are absolutely central to our approach to how we understand and address barriers to engaging communities with trees and nature for health and well-being. So before we go to Raise, I'll just take you through what community forestry is, because it really does set the context for Raise. So Raise is part of a national programme. We're one of 15 community forests in England. We cover just 20% of the country, but we're within 15 kilometres of 65% of the population. And working together as England's community forests, we're the largest environmental regeneration initiative in England currently. And collectively, collaboratively, we work to deliver long-term place-based programmes of tree planting, woodland creation and woodland management, always in partnership and co-creation with local communities. Currently, our major programme is funded through a £200 million DEFRA funded programme, and we're managing that absolutely as a network. So we have a collective national target. If one of us is struggling, the others step in, whether that's to provide expertise, whether it's to deliver more hectares. So it's an incredible partnership at a national level. And we currently work with major national partners as well as local partners. So nationally, we're working with the Forestry Commission, Woodland Trust, National Trust, and others. Um, and it's worth being aware really that community forests often include communities within the 10% most deprived areas in England. So where government has agreed that we can be placed has been very, very carefully considered based upon the needs and opportunities within specific areas. And in those 10% most deprived areas in England, I always think the most striking statistic is that children in those areas are 20% less likely to spend time outside than children from more affluent areas. And obviously that has an impact on health and well-being. So we start off by looking like we're all about trees, but actually, in fact, we're all about people. It's all about how we engage communities with woodlands for health, well-being, jobs, training, and we're part of the process of addressing things that the arts are addressing. So, how do we address what communities face, those challenges that communities face, particularly in socio-economically deprived areas? And it's worth just saying, I'm sure you all know this, but engagement with nature and woodlands is absolutely proven to positively impact physical and mental health. And it can absolutely create opportunities for volunteering, education, and employment. So that's the sort of national context of who we are and what we do. At the local level, um, you'll just see on this screen there the area of Cumbria Community Forest as it stands currently. So we're the light green area. It's about 1,800 square miles. So it's a large area, very diverse landscapes, diverse communities. We are just in the process, possibly at the moment, of expanding slightly further round to the south as well. Um, Although the average tree and woodland cover over that area is about 12.4%, so not far off the national average at the moment, there are large pockets which are way below the national average, so including Barrow at about 5%, and it's way below government's legally binding target of 16.5% tree and woodland cover for the country by 2050. Um, Part of our process of how we enable communities to engage with woodlands for health and well-being is obviously we have to plant more trees in that context. So one of the tools that we have currently is Trees for Climate. So Trees for Climate is a bespoke fund provided through DEFRA that allows us to offer flexible funding to communities and landowners. And that's to enable the cost of planting trees, maintaining trees, infrastructure to make trees and woodlands accessible to the local public. And it also allows us to offer a bespoke engagement process. So everywhere that we're looking to plant, where we've been approached or that we are planting, we deliver consultation, engagement, and a co-creation approach with local communities and landowners. So again, inherent to our approach. We also are a long-term programme. So our programme is to be here for a minimum of 25 years. Currently, the oldest community forest is at around 35 years and are still going strongly. In support of that, community forests are recognised within national planning policy. So we are required as part of our work ending in 2025 to publish a 25-year strategy called a forest plan. And it's really it's a strategy and delivery plan for how we will plant trees in partnership across the community forest area. And that absolutely links into the development of the local nature recovery strategy that's being developed by the local authorities at the moment. It's a very much a data-driven approach. So what you can see on the screen at the moment is the tool that we've developed, which is based upon multiple layers of publicly available data. And in essence, what it's showing is dark green areas, dark green hexagons, where the key factors come together of low existing tree cover, high potential in terms of environmental conditions to plant trees, and impact that we can have through planting trees on socioeconomic factors. So the dark green areas are where our programme can have the highest public benefits, but we obviously aren't limited to planting trees in those areas. It's simply a way of indicating where we focus particular resources. And all of that is currently under consultation with various key national and local stakeholders, due to be adopted locally at the end of March, and then that will go through to adoption into local plans through 2025 if all things go smoothly. So the programme's very, very much based upon a nationally supported approach and a recognition of the importance of community forestry as one of the ways that we achieve government targets around woodland creation in support of the climate emergency. And just as a quick headline, statistics of what we've created over the last 2 years. So Cumbria Community Forest was launched in 2022, and we've had a really flying start. So currently we've created over 130 hectares of new trees and woodlands, and that was against a target of 100. We've planted over 160,000 trees, and we've been successful at generating significant inward investment. And that's predominantly through the capital grants that we can award to landowners for those developments. But as I say, at the heart of all of that is a growing engagement programme. This year, we're on track at the moment to deliver around further 85 hectares by the end of March. Fingers crossed, let's hope it stops raining. And that's accompanied by a far greater engagement programme this year, so we'll be engaging with significantly more communities. And so then if hopefully that's given you the kind of snapshot of what community forestry is at the national level and the scale really of Cumbria Community Forest, we sort of move on to what is RAISE. And so RAISE is unusual in the community forestry world. So RAISE really is the organisation that I lead. We're hosted by a national charity called the Community Forest Trust. And RAISE is there to really give a particular perspective and approach to how we develop Cumbria Community Forest here. We're made up of a small team of 6 people, including myself. So along with me, there are 4 expert foresters in very different disciplines. So Gary, Nathan, Zoe and Ruth. And we've got a fantastic programme manager called Isabel. So incredibly small team. We utterly rely on working in partnership to achieve the scale of what we're achieving. So we work with a range of national and local partners. We work with expert associates. So at the moment we have associates leading on anything from the geospatial mapping through to neurodivergent engagement. And as I say, everything we do really is about being the best partner we possibly can to achieve the benefits we're here to achieve. And at the heart of RAISE really is a celebration of the huge benefits that engagement with trees and woodlands can have for people, but the absolute recognition that there's inequality of access, and whether that's due to proximity to woodlands, whether that's social or whether it's cultural factors. So RAISE really exists to understand and address the barriers to engagement that different communities or groups of people face in engaging trees and woodlands. So over the summer, to inform our approach, we worked with various people across Cumbria to have 4 innovative pilots really to explore how could Rays better understand barriers faced by different groups of people. Um, and it was a wide-ranging group of people. So in Carlisle, we worked with refugees and adults seeking asylum for whom cultural experiences of and access to UK woodlands has proven to be a very complex issue. In Barrow, we work with autistic adults and young people living in those kind of post-industrial communities where they've got very limited use of green spaces. And the sort of we used research questions in that one. So particularly, what facilities and facilitation best support you to access woodlands? In Maryport, we worked with 2 groups of young people who were, one group was from the LGBTQT plus community, and they were variously facing social isolation with a view that they wanted to leave the area when they were old enough to. So that was very much looking about both what could a green safe space look like for those groups of people, but also could woodlands and increased woodlands contribute to a greater sense of pride or connection with their area? And in Cleator Moor, we were working with adults with a learning disability and physical disability. And that was very much gaining insight into that community's current interaction with local forests. And each of those pilots were absolutely creatively led. So we were working with different individual creative practitioners, also supported them by arts and heritage organisations. So, for example, Tully House worked with us on the Carlisle project, particularly linking us into the refugee and asylum seeking communities. And Full of Noises, who are a fantastic partner down in Barrow with autistic adults. And then we also work regularly with specialist link organisations. So for those pilots, we were working with Autus, West House, Cumbria Pride and others. And that gave us learning to really help us develop the model, and particularly the creatively led model of Rays, but also has allowed us to ensure that a creative approach is at the heart of the forest plan and the 25-year strategy for Cumbria Community Forest. And so just to talk to you about then what came out of that. So from that learning, we've launched the Rays Collective. So the Rays Collective is absolutely neurodivergent led. It takes a place-based approach to consulting and engaging with communities in areas that we are looking to plant trees. And it's very much to support our science-led foresters. So what I learned early on was that foresters are a fantastic group of people to work with, but they are absolutely understandably trained in the sort of professional approaches to forestry, but sometimes that approach to forestry might conflict with the cultural history of the site or the wants of a community. So what we do is we bring together science-led foresters, ecologists, creative practitioners, researchers, funders, and particularly health, education and community professionals as part of our collective, and we place local voices at the heart of that. And then the collective basically is visiting sites that we're expecting to be planting, and we interrogate the site from multiple perspectives, but from a creatively led space. And that helps us to build new relationships. We get far greater vision and ideas for how we can develop the site. It also ensures that we're fully understanding public need, public opinion, current public access and barriers. And most of all, it acts as an engine for future projects. So what we're looking to come out of that day with is both a plan for the planting that year, but also is there opportunity to work together on creatively led projects that allow us to remain on that site into the long term and to continue to work both to develop the environmental impact, but also working with communities. And really at the heart of it, what we're doing is redefining what a forest can be. So if we accept the fact that for many people, they've lost what a lot of foresters would see as the normal relationship with a forest, well, what can the relationship for communities now be with forests? This is just a quick snapshot of the collective meeting that happened in Cumbersdale this year. So in Cumbersdale, we were joined by creative practitioners, including Joanne Coates, Robin Harriott from Somewhere Nowhere, and Snea Solanki. And that was again attended also by Tully House. As I said earlier, the collective has a particular focus, and Rays has a particular focus on how our work can involve neurodivergent communities. Specifically, we look to celebrate neurodivergent culture and to better understand the beneficial relationship between neurodivergent people and woodland environments. And I've been challenged many times about why do we have this focus? So should a large sort of government funded programme have a focus on a particular group of people? And I think we believe that we're not focusing on a minority. What we're doing is if we can ensure that our woodlands that we create are accessible to neurodivergent people, then they're better woodlands for everyone. And if we accept and celebrate the fact that woodlands can be a really healthy space for communities, particularly in socioeconomically deprived communities, I think then when you look at the statistics around neurodivergent people, they're simply shocking. Their health and wellbeing outcomes currently are really poor. So without having a depressing moment in this conversation, the average range of death for autistic people currently is between 36 and 54 years. Depression is experienced by 40% of the autistic population. 66% of the autistic population has contemplated suicide. 35% of the population has attempted suicide, which is 3 times more likely than the general population. So we very, very strongly place understanding the barriers faced to engaging with woodlands by neurodivergent people at the heart of what we do, both because we recognise the massive benefit it can have for neurodivergent communities, but also a woodland designed around neurodivergent access is just simply a better and more accessible woodland for everyone. Then just to give you a snapshot really of some of the outcomes that are coming through from the forest planning process and the visioning process. And this is very, very headline level. It's a 100-page document at the moment, but I thought it just might be interesting for you to see where we're looking at going, both as Rays and the community forest. So a very simplistic way of looking at it is saying if we can plant the maximum number of trees that we can with communities every year, it develops increased opportunities for us to support local communities to create community woodlands. So basically a greater, longer term, more in-depth engagement with a woodland in their area for the benefits that that community can access and want to access. And ultimately, we believe it's a really healthy thing to create a network of community woodlands within the forest so we can all be inspired and share learning and showcase to each other how we are connecting with woodlands. So for Razor's point of view, we're looking at creating a woodland-based venue where we can stage programmes and events, which is all about placing the celebration of neurodivergent culture at its heart, but particularly being a basis of research where we can demonstrate that beneficial relationship for neurodivergent communities of woodlands. So that's the sort of direction of travel, but it just reinforces really that creative practice is not simply something that we contract as a project. The thinking of creative practitioners and creative people is at the very heart of our approach, and as I say, at the heart of what we celebrate with woodlands. So that's hopefully again another insight into Rays alongside the community forest. When we worked in Barrow, we just had a fantastic experience working with Full of Noises and Autists, so a local autism link organisation. We were working with a group of autistic adults to really understand how accessible are woodlands as a sensory experience for autistic people. And if you would let me share a 5-minute video, I think it just gives you an insight really into how we work, what we're doing. I just think it's a very lovely video by a lovely company. So I will just let you enjoy that for 5 minutes, if I may.
I wonder if different trees make different wind sounds. I guess they do, because of the amount of leaves and branches.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, and like the thickness of the leaves.
Yeah. Yeah, like I can see a gust over there right now, and it's just travelled from there to here to that.
Receiving praise and acceptance can be difficult. However, just as flowers bloom and trees open wide to bask in sunlight, we bask in self-appreciation.
I just had a thought that I don't remember the last time I really sat and observed a tree, but it's reminding me of when I was little and I used to climb trees quite a lot.
My lovely brain, this is my brain here, will say things like, there's too much sun, you'll burn. It's safer inside, but there's normies out there. get the barbecue started.
Massive.
The comfort side of it was quite a big thing for me in terms of feeling at home, because like you could easily make it like a tent and have like a wall blocked, but yeah, having it quite open was another way to make it a bit more inviting, a bit more comfortable.
We're matching colours with wildlife and plants, so this looks like that.
It's like got multiple sort of shades. Now that's the bit that matches there. It's there. That's the bit that matches.
These ones are rowan berries.
Burning rain and fresh air, lotus flowers blossom on the fruit trees blooming, yeah. I smell it, yeah. I feel welcome, safely, breeze aside. All annoying distractions, twitchy, monster, curious, and softness of forget-me-nots, yeah. I feel it, yeah.
Forget-me-nots is a song. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. British. Forget-me-nots. Bum bum. Bum bum.
I hope you enjoyed the video. On the one hand, I just think it's a lovely video that's been really helpful in us talking to different groups about neurodivergence. Underlying that, the reports that were generated by the creative practitioners have been just vital in how we've developed our approach. So underlying the video, what we've begun to understand is that there's a common theme for neurodivergent people in woodlands around feeling a sense of permission, that they don't feel that they have permission to access public green spaces. And alongside that, particularly a far greater understanding of some of the sensory issues that presents to autistic people particularly. So we're now working with Full of Noises and Autists and the groups of people that we've consulted with on 3 sites in Barrow this year. And the designs that the foresters have developed are being fundamentally changed to increase the accessibility and to support now what are looking like long-term programs on those sites in collaboration with RAISE and our local partners. So we're finding that the approach is just really effective.
Yeah, fabulous video, and the overall project is astonishingly rich and impressive. Thank you so much for that, James. Loads of issues and thoughts springing out of that, James, and I should just want to flag up that Rebecca, who's on the call, saying that as a neurodivergent person, she found that presentation quite difficult to process, but that was the way that you as a neurodivergent person felt it most comfortable to present on Zoom. So there's plainly lots to be negotiated there, and I think as CACN we need to be thinking a bit more about the accessibility. Rebecca suggested a bit of a précis in advance would have been helpful, so I think we can take that on board. I just want to pick up something you said right at the very beginning, and I may be slightly misinterpreting this, but it seemed that you were saying that the arts and culture sector, particularly theatre perhaps, was not a good place for neurodivergent people. Can you just
I think producing theatre in management terms is hateful if you're neurodivergent. It's a large part of what I fed back to the Arts Council when I sort of moved on. So I think theatre is fantastic. I think the art form is fantastic. I think the industry's understanding of how to support neurodivergent people in management roles particularly, but also across the board is low. And it's been curious. I think the environmental sector, it's not necessarily that it is more advanced in its understanding, but I think it's a far more forgiving and positive environment. So yeah, I think for me, I didn't want to move on a basis that felt like that I just parked that. So for me, it's been very much about exploring how I can work with creative people and organisations in a different way that feels far more sort of accessible and the ability to tailor it to neurodivergent experience. So that's really where wanting to celebrate neurodivergent culture in a what I feel is an authentic and genuine way came from.
Wonderful. We're going to have to move on to pack everything in today, but I was just going to, Derek's got his hand up, I think. Can you come off mute, Derek, briefly?
Yes, James, that was fascinating. All very positive and look wonderful. I note your organisation is named after a local fell too. That's encouraging.
Yeah.
There are two questions really, very quickly. One is, have you had any real issues with vested interests who are less enthusiastic about your projects? And the other one was whether there's any connection with the Skiddaw Forest proposal.
Yes, in terms of the first one, absolutely. I was incredibly tentative in the first year about how we developed the vision of the forest. So certainly over time, I've had to do a lot of work advocating both simply for trees. Trees is a very controversial topic with a lot of the landowners that we work with, but also for a creatively led approach. We've had to really demonstrate by working with great artists and showing the outcomes to really take people on that journey, as well as why we're focused on neurodivergent communities. And I think we've just come to the point where we absolutely believe in our approach. We're now being heavily supported by DEFRA and at the national level that they're really excited by the approach. And so I think the more confident we've been about advocating for it, the more people have come on board. So now it is our approach and our longer term vision is widely supported by the key bodies in Cumbria and the key bodies nationally that we need to work with. Just remind me, Derek, your second question.
Tying in with the Skiddaw Forest.
Oh yeah, so we're in chats with Cumbria Wildlife Trust. So there are routes that they may wish to pursue around our core funding, and we've also been discussing the potential of some of those engagement approaches with the Skiddaw Forest.
Fantastic. Lorna Singleton, who works in spelt basketry, as you're probably aware, talks about how sensorially delicious working in woodlands is, and wonders if there are pathways into woodland work going to be developed through the project.
Yeah, I mean, partly the more that we can plant trees and the more we can introduce people to our way of working with creative practitioners, and particularly the collective approach, the way we're looking to really drive and explore at the outset opportunities for longer term projects in specific places. It's part of the absolute intention to say that if creative practitioners are interested in what we do in it and it works for their form, then it will create opportunities, absolutely. And because of the long-term nature of the programme, I really do hope that it becomes a real engine for creating those opportunities in the outdoor environment.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, James. It's an absolutely wonderful, inspiring project. And I'm sure there's lots of people on this call that would be very keen to get involved in some shape or form. We'll put the Raise website into the chat. Very nice website you've got there too. Thank you so much, James, for joining us. And now we should move on rapidly to another environmentally angled project, the Watery Walks. And I recorded this interview that I think Amy is about to play with Jodie from West Cumbria Rivers Trust. We're talking now because at the time of the Friday Zoom call, you're going to be in the Egremont area launching this project. But it's great that you can explain to us exactly what's going on. So what are these Watery Walks?
Well, they kind of started from an idea I've had for a long time, really, is to try and get people out on their local rivers. The problem we have in Cumbria and probably all over the UK really is that a lot of our rivers aren't accessible, so there isn't lots of footpaths along them. So I really wanted to see which rivers in our catchment you could actually walk along, and really the main focus is health and well-being benefits. Very well documented, particularly since COVID, about how good it is to get out and about in nature, in blue and green spaces. So I wanted to give people a bit of confidence to take a stroll along their local river. Some of the research that we've done it has been around people, you know, who don't traditionally put on some wellies and go for a stroll, you know, need that little bit of extra help and confidence to do that. So we're doing podcasts and providing maps and some tail trails as well, to try and give people and families a bit more of a helping hand for them to do the walks.
You're very much kind of adding even more enrichment to the experience of getting out in nature by various means, including some art, which we'll talk about in a minute. Just explain a bit for people who don't know about what the West Cumbria Rivers Trust actually is and does.
Well, we're one of many rivers trusts across the UK. So we're a bit like the Wildlife Trust. We have an umbrella organisation, the Rivers Trust. And in Cumbria, we've got us, West Cumbria Rivers Trust, then we've got Eden Rivers Trust over to the east, and then to the south, South Cumbria Rivers Trust, and then Loon Rivers Trust too covers a little tiny bit of Cumbria. So we're basically all working along the rivers and lakes in our catchments to help improve them for people and wildlife. So we do things like making rivers wiggly again. We've got lots of projects working on natural flood management, which is trying to keep as much water as we can on the hills and in the fields, rather than flooding people's homes. We work a lot with farmers and landowners to try and stop pollution going into the rivers and helping them with their farm businesses, with lots of advice about the environment and nature. And also we have an education team as well, so they're going into schools and doing some of our programs. We've got a river Wild About Rivers days that we do. So we do a day in the classroom and then a day out and about on the local river. And then we have Greener Grounds as well, which is where we're going into schools and creating lovely green areas in the schools, forest schools areas and wildlife areas within.
You're a charity, aren't you?
We are a charity, yeah. So we don't get any core funding other than kind of funding bids and things that we raise. We do have a River Givers scheme, which we've got about 3 members, which is £15 a year per person, because we're a river trust, and our kind of business model is that we work on other people's land, so we don't own any land. So not like the Wildlife Trust, where they have lots of reserves that people want to, you know, pledge money and support to, because they want to see those reserves kept as they are. So yeah, we've got, it's a little bit of a different kind of business model to a lot of the NGOs and environmental charities around.
Okay, so the Watery Walks, it's billed as a festive experience, and it's being rolled out through December. So there's 10 walks in all, is that right?
There is, yeah. Well, it's basically a festive experience because the money has to be spent by the end of December. So we're in a bit of a rush, and we only got the grant in September. No, sorry, in August. So it's been quite a whirlwind trying to get these. Well, I thought it would be a very simple and very easy project to do, but sadly, with the number of landowners and procedures that you have to follow for putting up signage and things along public footpaths and permissive paths and things, it's been quite an eye opener really. And I'm planning permission to put some small artworks onto site and things, as well as being interesting.
So tell us a bit more about the art. You have commissioned a certain amount of art and artistic activity.
Yes, yeah, we have. So we thought that in all, again, a pull to get people onto the walks if there was something to do or something to see on the walks, then that would encourage people to go along. So we've worked with a couple of artists, one of them at Egremont. So we chose the river in Egremont because the land's owned by our patrons, Lord and Lady Egremont, and we've taken out a big weir there a number of years ago now. So we thought that would be a really nice project to do. Plus, it's easily accessible from the town centre. So that's another thing we wanted to be able to do as well. So people don't have to drive to do the walk. They can easily do that from town. So we've been working with artist Daniel Weatherit. So he's based in Kendal, and he's produced these absolutely fantastic river totems. So we did some sessions with the local community, some workshops, and where they did some drawings, and now he's created these fabulous all carved river totems which will spin round as people go along the walk. But yeah, sadly we had to put in planning permission for them, and that's been refused because we haven't got a flood risk permit, flood risk assessment, sorry, by the Environment Agency. So we've had to go back to the planning. Bearing in mind, you normally only need to get a flood risk. You need to get a flood risk assessment if you're building a housing estate next to the river. But we've been asked for one for 3 river totems. So we need to go back and see what we can do about that. So sadly, it won't be in place for Friday when we launch the walk, but we are going to hopefully bring some of the local school kids down that have worked with Daniel, and they can see the totems, but we'll just have to be holding them.
All right, but planning permission permitting, they'll be permanent once they're up.
They will be, yes, yeah.
But there's more temporary activity happening over in Workington.
There is, yeah. So that's another one of the walks from Workington as well. From the town centre. In fact, there's 2 walks from Workington, a longer one and the shorter one through Hall Park and along the mill race there. So we're working with Anne Waggot-Knott. So she's been doing some workshops with the community as well, and some local schools. And she's going to be producing some more temporary flags. Again, we had issues with being able to install any permanent artworks there. There's some other works going on with part of some of the levelling up funds, so we weren't able to provide any kind of permanent artworks. But I think the flags will be great. They're the kind of thing that we can take to other events and things as well, and be able to put them up for some of the many events that we do.
So how do people find out about these walks? You say you're kind of revealing them gradually through December.
Yes, they're all going to be on our website. So that's just West Cumbria Rivers Trust. So they'll all be on there, and so there'll be maps to download. And we're also working with Anya from Tail Trails. So she's doing a Tail Trail map too. We've also been working with a local photographer to take some really lovely images as well, which will be on our website, and some podcasts as well. Again, giving that people just that little...
I believe Tom Spate has been involved.
He did, yes, it is a Tom, yeah. So just again to give that people that little bit of confidence, and also just to listen about what they can see on the walk. We've done one for the River, so that's with our project manager that works there. So that's all about the freshwater pearl mussels and other wildlife, and some of the history and things as well that people can see on the walk. So
will they be sort of accessible into the new year in terms of the route finding, and the maps, I suppose, will be valid forever?
Oh yeah. They'll just stay on our website now. We did talk to Eden Rivers Trust. They did some walks through their one of their lottery grants they had a few years ago, and they've actually said that that's the biggest hit on their website is people downloading their walk maps. So so we're hoping they're going to be quite popular, and people will use them for years and years to come.
another artistic angle to it involves Robert McFarlane and the Lost Words project, which has grown many tentacles over the last few years.
Yes, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, we were quite surprised when he agreed, yes, that we could use some of a couple of his poems, which he's actually read as well for the podcast. Apparently, his parents live in Cockermouth or near Cockermouth, and you know do that walk quite regularly. So he was really keen to yeah offer his poems for that, which is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Now you're actually having a launch at Florence Arts Centre, which has been heavily involved in the project. And
Yeah.
I guess if people, I don't want people to rush off now, but it's 12 noon on Friday. So if anybody can whiz along there, I guess they could join in the launch then.
Yes, no, absolutely. Yeah, there'll be mince pies and mulled wine as well. But also, yes, there's a walk. We're doing the walk earlier on, and we've got some of the school children coming out. Although we just looked at the weather forecast, and it's looking pretty hideous. So, so it might be that we just do the mince pies and mulled wine and forget the walk, sadly, because we've also had our apprentices working very hard all week to replace a bridge and some steps on that walk ready for Friday. So it would be a shame not to be able to do the walk, but anyway, it'll be there for many years to come for people to enjoy.
I mean, you mentioned apprentices there. You're very heavily reliant on volunteer input, aren't you?
We are, yes, yeah, lots and lots of fantastic volunteers that we have to help do our work. Yeah.
So if anybody was interested in what sort of work might they be doing?
Well, they've come up to winter. Well, over the winter season now, lots and lots of tree planting. We just had a tree order came yesterday. You literally cannot move in our giant garage that we have. So plenty of trees to be planted. And then over the summer, we're looking more at invasive species, so removing Himalayan balsam and working on our electrofishing program where we monitor what fish there are in the river. So we stun the fish. We don't kill them. We like put a very small electrical in the thing which stuns them, and then we can measure them and see how many and count how many fish there are. So that informs us where we need to be targeting our conservation efforts in the future.
And presumably if people would be interested in getting involved in any of those activities, they can find ways through the website and find something in their local area.
Yes, yeah. There was and we're also, if anybody's into education things as well, our education staff are always looking for volunteers to come and help them deliver the education sessions. Which quite often involve arts stuff, and we do forest schools as well. So yeah, lots of things to get involved in.
Okay, so it's fabulous. Well, best of luck for the launch, which will be happening pretty much as we're playing this on Friday. And yes, I'm certainly looking forward to getting out and about on some of the local rivers when the weather permits. So
yes.
Thanks very much, Jodie.
Thank you.
Right. Nice segue to Florence Arts, which we're going to be talking about next. Don't rush off there for their mince pies just yet, because we're going to be finding out about Beast. While Amy is setting that up, Nanette, if you can come off mute, you are the resident artist at Florence. Can you tell us where this project came from?
Yeah, we had a get together at Florence Arts Centre of artists in the local area, and we've done projects like this before with Fruitful when Anne Waggett-Knott was there, and so we were just talking about what the theme would be, and I'm very interested in environmental topics because my background is very much in that, and then somehow we just came up with this theme of beast. And because I was very keen to work on because it's the year of the dragon, in Chinese culture, and dragons are, at least in the East, synonymous with rivers, anything watery, weather, flooding, drought. So I think out of that, we came up with the title Beast.
Okay. Let's move on through the slides. We've got some of the other artists here with us. Monique. No, sorry, who we got?
Ursula.
Ursula, there we are.
And Natalie.
Natalie, yeah. So it's exploring the relationship between humans and the natural environment, broadly speaking, isn't it? In the way and the possibility that we are the beasts in the negative sense.
Yeah, that's right. And it's we were asking the question, who is the beast? You know, is it us? And then I think, well, you'll see later on, the artists focused on the different aspects of the beast, and it was all with an environmental bent. Yeah.
Okay. Next slide, if you want to keep ticking through it. There's quite a lot to look at here. Workshops. And please, sorry, I was going to say, Natalie and Ursula, if you want to come off mute and chip in at will.
It was an interesting group meeting, and of course 8 artists all involved, 8 brains, 8 minds, all going off into different tangents and different disciplines. So we've got poetry and sort of my piece is a collage. So the collage itself took the background. It's 4 meters by 1.5 meters. It's a huge collage made with magazines. So that every piece of material on my collage is made of the material from the great artists' magazines. So the whole of the background.
Sorry, I'm just going to say, if we move the slides on, I think we can have a look at that shortly. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah. So the whole of the background is made from artwork of famous artists, which the artists amongst the visitors can spot work by famous artists. So you might see a bit of Turner in the sky. And the idea is it's sort of loosely based on the Garden of Earthly Delights. So this is our coast of earthly delights. And people who know the West Coast might realise that that's St. Bees Head and the beach there. And basically the sky on the left side is sort of calm. And as we go across the landscape, it becomes more stormy. And the idea is the visitors come and make a beast. So the beasts are created from famous artworks. And gradually the beasts become more grotesque as we move through the environment, with the sort of premises, what will happen as our environment deteriorates, what will happen to us as people? Will we sort of decline in ourselves? And that's kind of the message, but it's also about having fun. So having fun in creating creatures, putting together heads and bodies and arms and legs. So that's the fun, creative side of it. And then also that sort of art side of leafing through all those magazines, and for visitors to have the opportunity to discover artists that maybe aren't as well known to the general public as they leaf through the magazines. Brilliant. And we've had children, we've had parents, we've had grandparents, and we've had a couple of sessions where we've engaged with people, but the materials are there all the time. So if people want to wander in, there's glue, there's scissors, there's magazines available. So it's participation. Yeah.
And Ursula, what's your part been in this?
Yes, so my part, interestingly enough, kind of links with the previous thing almost. It's the river. And basically, so I've been working with the rubbish on the coast a lot, and so basically fishing old fishing rods. That's called ghost gear. So the ghost, the beast, us, So we are throwing rubbish into the sea, and as I was doing it as I was writing a poem on a piece of cloth, it became automatically a river. So I've been focusing much more about river. And then in the end, apart from my poem, I've added some figures on pollution of some of our most polluted rivers. So that became a thing in itself. And then I've sort of done my first sound recording for it, thanks to Nanette's good idea to sound record it. And so it's already sort of growing tentacles as well. And then the collaboration of all of us was very good. And as you move throughout the room, you can see how we link into each other as well, our pieces. And yes,
sounds like a wonderfully collaborative project all around. And Nanette, this has been a real opportunity for artist development. Several of the people involved, it's their first actual commission, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And people were at quite different stages of their art career. So we had Charlotte, who together with Sue Jackson, they created this dragon installation that's outside, and you can feed cans into it. So it's to do with recycling, and the whole thing can be de-installed and recycled. And so Charlotte, she's still at Lakes College studying fine art. There she is, Charlotte Crooks. And then we've got Bob Dixon, who's he's just started on his art career a little bit later on. And for a lot of us, this was the first time we'd applied for a commission. So Sue, the director at Florence, was very keen to develop us as artists. And the thing with having a commission was that it gave us a lot of creative freedom to create something that was experiential, I think, and it allowed for this installation to occur, and it just allowed for a kind of a freedom of ideas. So it was a fantastic process, and all the workshops as well to include participation and co-creation and collaboration.
And this is open now, running through till the 22nd of December.
That's right.
At Florence, and the opening hours are, is it Thursday to Sunday? The Florence is open.
That's right.
Friday to Sunday.
Friday, yeah.
Yeah, 11 to 3.
And free admission and opportunities to contribute and get involved. Actually, still very much a participatory experience as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. The people who have been involved with Rachel Metcalf's work, she's been making 2D and 3D dragons, and some of the people who have been involved in making them, especially some of the younger participants, have wanted to take them home, but other people have left them in the gallery. So we've actually got pieces on the wall and around the gallery that have been made by the visitors, and they've left them in there to take away later, which is really nice.
I think we've got a picture of that on Rachel's page.
We might have to go back to that. There's we've got a couple of minutes, well, a minute, Nanette, with another hat on. Prism, tell people about the things they can experience in Carlisle tomorrow.
Oh, yes. So I got involved with that because I sometimes do forestry, forest school things, and sometimes we get people who are neurodiverse children coming along, and I felt as an artist that I didn't have the tools to be able to make what we offer more accessible and inclusive. So I mentioned that to Prism, and then they developed this program for trainee, they call us trainee artists, to learn how to make our practice more inclusive. And so we each got a mentor. My mentor is Rosie Galloway Smith. And so we got a bursary, and it went on for 6 weeks where we would go in once a week with the Prism artists, and we developed a body of work. And so this is all coming to fruition in this final show, and they've been calling it an artist takeover. And so we are having an evening event tonight at Prism from 6 till 8, and then tomorrow I think it's from 11 till 2, and you'll be able to come in and experience the installations and the work of all the artists, and there'll be workshops. It's been an incredible 6 weeks. We've learned so much. It's been amazing. Yeah, so feel free to come along.
Yeah, battle your way through the winds to get to Carlisle.
Yeah.
And right, it is 10:30. We'll overrun slightly, but it's been an absolutely packed show. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions. James, Jodie earlier in the week, and everybody involved in the Beast project. Thank you all, everybody else, for attending. And Tom will be back to restore some degree of normality next week. Kate, you look like you're about to say something.
Thank you to you for holding the fort, and for Amy for keeping the show on the road whilst Tom is in big smoke. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody for coming as usual.
Yes, have excellent weekends. Avoid falling branches. See you next week.
Bye.